Greetings. Today we're going to talk about perhaps one of the best ways to extend your lifespan and improve your health. Calorie restriction. Now, what is calorie restriction? Well, simply put, it means eating fewer calories than you normally do. Now, when people do research on this, they often come at a level of about 10% to 25% below the normal amount you eat. Now, in previous videos, you may hear me talk about things like settled science. Is there a consensus within the scientific community? Now, it turns out that calorie restriction has been researched for decades across many species of animals and with people as well. And this may come very close to something we can consider to be settled science. If you engage in calorie restriction, you can improve your health and increase your lifespan. Now, the principles behind calorie restriction are sound, even if you don't do the 10 to 25% reduction in the amount of food you eat. So let's talk about this. We're going to do a little bit of a nerd moment here, so please forgive me for boring you if I do. But if something works, we should know and understand the mechanisms behind that. And to understand the mechanisms behind calorie restriction, I want to introduce you to the term, maybe you've heard it before, reactive oxidative stress. And the way this works is whenever you eat, so this is part of your normal metabolic processes, whenever you eat anything, the process of turning food into energy gives off something that's called reactive oxidative species, which are highly reactive molecules that contain oxygen. Now, on the one hand, you need these reactive oxidative species for doing things like cell signaling and immune responses, but you need to have a balance. So there has to be a balance between these reactive oxidative species and then antioxidants. And you may have heard a lot about these. They talk about foods that are high in antioxidants, and they say you should eat these foods because they neutralize the reactive oxidative species. Wow, try saying that 5 times fast. Now, the challenge is if there's too much of the reactive oxidative species in your body, that can cause reactive oxidative stress, or ROS. We'll make that a little bit easier to say. Now, since reactive oxidative stress, or ROS, can occur as a byproduct of food you eat, then it stands to reason that the less you eat, the less ROS you may be susceptible to, and the more you eat, the more ROS you could be susceptible to. Now, ROS can come from other sources besides just what you eat. This is the stress part. It can come from environmental factors like pollutants, toxins, even radiation like UV radiation. It can come from lifestyle choices like if you smoke or do excessive drinking or if you have a poor diet. And it can come from chronic inflammation. Now, ROS can be harmful to the body. It can cause cellular damage. It can damage your DNA. It can cause inflammation. Importantly, it can accelerate aging, which results from the damage we just described. It's been implicated in neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, and can also contribute to cardiovascular disease as well. So all of this is bad stuff. Now, if we engage in calorie restriction, we can reduce this ROS, so that's great. It can also have a number of other effects on the body. And in order to understand this, I want you to think in terms of a very fundamental property of nature. Nature and your body as well operates in cycles. So think about this. We're in winter right now at the time that this video is being made. So what happens during winter? we go into a state of deprivation, right? There's less sunlight, the days are shorter, there's less precipitation because warm air holds more moisture than cold air. So what happens? Plants don't have as much nutrients in terms of sunlight and water and things like that. So they become dormant. That's why you don't have to mow your lawn. So now all of a sudden the animals are like, oh, hey, the food supply, that's also down because the plants are dormant. They're not growing, they're not producing, the leaves have fallen, all this kinds of stuff. So we're going to start hibernating. We're going to go into survival mode. Then spring comes along, the days get longer, the sun shines brighter because it's more direct sunlight. There's more moisture, so there's more rainfall, plants grow, animals come out of hibernation, they start eating, they start growing, they start reproducing. Well, your body operates in the same way. When you eat a lot of food, your body says, oh, I have materials, I can grow. But when you deprive it, now we go into survival mode. So when we go into survival mode, we do things like increasing autophagy. Autophagy is Greek for eating oneself. What happens in autophagy? Your body's recycling old proteins. It's destroying senescent or dying cells and using the materials to make new cells, so it cleans you out. That's a very healthy thing. If your body is receiving less energy from its food, it goes to the cells and it goes to the mitochondria that live in your cells and say, hey, we need you to produce more energy. We need you to make more mitochondria, because mitochondria, if you remember from high school biology, the powerhouses of the cells. Reduction in inflammation, enhanced DNA repair, enhanced insulin sensitivity. Your cells are trying to get the sugar it can. The activation of hormetic pathways. So hormesis, that's the stress response. When your body's under stress, the survival mechanisms kick in. Well, that's what happens when you have calorie restriction. Also, we reduce the production of growth factors, like insulin-like growth factors, or mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin. Now, these things are implicated in aging. Again, when things are plentiful in your body, you want to grow, but when it's not, you go into survival mode. So your body turns on its longevity genes. So these are benefits to your body, but benefits also accrue to your health. Lower blood pressure. There was a study that showed that calorie restriction can lead to lower cholesterol, lower overall cholesterol, lower LDL, the bad cholesterol. But on the other hand, the good cholesterol, HDL, that went up. Weight loss, you eat less food, you lose more weight. And then all of those three things, the lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, the lower weight, can reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. Reduction in blood sugar, there's less food inside of you, but that can reduce your risk of diabetes. Reducing the DNA damage, reducing the risk of your neurodegenerative diseases. So all of these are good for your health as well. And then finally, because this is what we talked about at the beginning, the longevity side. And there have been numerous studies that have been done looking at the effects of calorie restriction on longevity. I'd like to go over one study in particular in a little bit of detail. It's a very well-known study done by Duke University, a very highly respected institution. It's called the Calorie Study. And what happened here is that over a 2-year period, people were placed, this was a randomized controlled trial, so half the people just ate normally, the other half were placed on a restricted calorie diet. Now, the target was that they should reduce by 25%. But as often is the case in many of these types of studies, you find that people don't do 100% adherence. So on average, people reduce their diets by about 12% of calories. Now, remember we said before, this is one of those things where the mechanism works, so even if you don't do everything and you just do some, you still get benefits. And that's what they found here. Now, in order to do longevity, and to measure predicted extension of lifespan. They didn't follow people all the way till their death because that could have taken decades. So instead they did something called measuring the biological age. Now, a lot of you who watch videos or read books on longevity are probably familiar with the topic of biological age. It means how old is your body from a functional perspective rather than a chronological one. So chronological age, that's how long ago you were born. So if you say to someone, how old are you? And the person says, oh, I'm 30. That person is really telling you, I was born 30 years ago. Biological age is how old are you from a functional perspective. So you could be younger or older than your actual age. For example, you've probably seen in your life people who are older, but yet they look young, they seem fit, healthy, active, vital, and you go to them, wow, I would have never guessed you're that old. You seem much younger. Beautiful example of this. A few years ago, I got married. My wife's from China. I went to China with her. Custom there is you ask their parents for permission. I met her mom, 80-year-old woman. I thought, okay, I'm going to ask an 80-year-old woman for permission to marry her daughter. We'll just sit on a couch. We'll drink tea. And then I'll say, can I marry your daughter? And hopefully she'll say yes. So this way I don't have to, spend a whole trip going halfway around the world and then hearing no and being disappointed. Spoiler alert, she did say yes. But we didn't sit on a couch and do that. She took me to the local park and taught me Chinese sword fighting. And she didn't just tell me about it, she was doing it with me. So here's an 80-year-old woman doing Chinese sword fighting with me. That's amazing. You don't think of that normally when you think about 80-year-old people, but biologically, she's much younger than her actual age. And you've probably seen the flip side, people who aren't that old, but they seem tired, they seem run down, they don't have much energy, not much vitality, zest for life. Maybe they're even a little bit more wrinkled or gray, and you're thinking, gee, what's wrong with you? You're not that old, but you act like an old person. Well, that person has a biological age that's older than their actual age. Now, I bring this up because a lot of times researchers will use biological age as a measure of the effectiveness of a longevity intervention. And there's value to doing that because there is research that shows that biological age can be a better predictor of how long somebody will live than the person's actual chronological age. So the Calorie study used biological age. And what they found was amazing. Over the 2-year period, they found that people on the calorie restricted diet aged about 0.11 years, so 0.11 years for every year that transpired over the 2 years. So in other words, they were aging at about 1/9 the actual chronological time. Now that's fantastic. Think about that. Imagine you could slow down the aging process that much. But there's an important caveat here. This was not linear. So in other words, even though it was an average of 0.11 over 2 years, the second year was not as strong a result as the first, suggesting that the benefit did slow down a bit. So that makes a lot of sense because think about it. You're not going to get a 9-to-1 advantage because that means like you live 90 more years, but your body only ages 10. That just doesn't make sense, right? Or instead of living to be 80, if you start calorie restriction from birth, you live to be 720. So probably what's going on is initially your body's fixing a lot of bad things, it's cleaning itself out, you're getting a lot of benefit, but once it's done that, there's a diminishing return. So over time, you've slowed down the aging a lot initially, and then maybe going forward, you'll get little by little more benefits. Like it won't be quite a year each year, and you can still keep prolonging your life by engaging in calorie restriction. All right, so let's talk about how we can actually implement calorie restriction in your life. Now, there's a very important caveat we have to start with. First of all, make sure you get all your nutrition if you're going to reduce the number of calories in your diet. Remember, this isn't starving yourself or depriving yourself, it's just eating less, but still getting full nutrition. And it's probably a good idea to check with your doctor to make sure that you're physically up for this and that what you're planning to eat is adequate for your needs. Now, the good news, and I've mentioned this before, there's no magic bullet, there's no one size fits all, that this is the exact amount you have to do it. You can pick what's comfortable for you. So if you want to reduce by 10%, that's great. If you want to reduce more, if you want to reduce 5%, the principle is sound. So let's say hypothetically you're a person who overeats and you overeat by 20%. You eat 20% more calories than you're supposed to, and you drop it down to normal. That's still a calorie reduction. You would still get benefits. Even if you drop it from 20% over to 10% over, you're still going to get some benefits compared to being at 20%. So the good news is you can customize this to what you feel comfortable to do and what you feel your lifestyle and your health will support. Now, how are some good strategies for this? All right, so many people use intermittent fasting. They might skip a meal, they compress all their eating in like 16-8, they don't eat for 8 hours, they eat they don't eat for 16 hours, then they eat for 8, or they might do alternate day fasting where they eat one day normally, then they skip a day, or they skip a day a week. Lots of different ways to do this. Another strategy, and I mentioned this in How to Lose Weight, the Easy Way video, which you should watch, eliminate crap food. Crap food, food that's high in calories, fats, salt, designed to make you eat a lot, has very little nutritional value. That's the easy way to reduce your calories without really sacrificing your health. Just cut out the unhealthy foods. And it's obvious what they are. Or look for low-calorie alternatives. So you go out to eat, and then there's the big meal that has all the 1,000, 1,500 calories, 2,000 calories, and then they have like the weight-conscious version of the menu that has the lighter calorie version. I try to order from those. That's a great way to reduce calories. Or if you watched my Lose Weight the Easy Way video, I had hacks that I used, like eating big food, like big salads, big smoothies, large half cantaloupe that fills my stomach but doesn't put a lot of calories in it, so I feel full and I don't need to eat anymore. Or I drink lots of liquids with fiber, like water, with a big glass of water with a lot of fiber in it, fills my stomach, makes me not want to eat, so therefore I can go more time without snacking. So now I've reduced calories. You can use your imagination. There are a lot of ways that you can implement reduction in calorie in your own life. Now, I want to thank you for watching my video. If you like it, please give us a like, please subscribe, and importantly, please leave your comments in the comments section. After all, we can always learn from each other. There might be ways that you've been able to reduce your calories in your life and reap the health benefits, and let us know what they are. And remember, your journey to a younger, healthier you starts here.